Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India. Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste. Welcome to the 11th session of the course Yoga and Positive Psychology for Managing Career and Life. In the previous sessions, we discussed about ways of attaining well-being and happiness as described in the Charak Samhita, and that is also a foundation of yogic perspective. So, we discussed about the Tattva Bodha, the importance of knowing, importance of winning over our senses, dharma kriya, that is directing our activities, day to day activities in harmony with self and social and natural environment, and sukhayu hitayu. We also looked at that these four components are actually self reinforcing, they enforce each other, they facilitate each other. In this session, we are going to look at obstacles on the ways of attaining well-being and means to surpass those obstacles. We all know that these are the four things which we discussed earlier, are if followed we can get the eternal happiness, we can also attain well-being. But in spite of knowing that, we many a time not able to pursue that path because we face obstacles, and most of the obstacles are actually intrinsic obstacles. So, we will talk about what are the intrinsic obstacles, and we will also look at what are the ways of surpassing those obstacles. To understand the obstacles and ways of surpassing those obstacles in order to attain well-being, we need to understand what is the nature of mind, what is our real nature. So, that is where we look at the first four sutras of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Patanjali Yoga Sutra, in the first two sentences or sutras, gives the very precise definition of yoga. It says that yoga is anusashan, yoga is a discipline, and it is about restraining the mind stuff. Yogas chitta vritti nirodha, restraining the mind stuff from taking various forms or vrittis. In the third and fourth sutra, Patanjali Rishi mentions what is the outcome, what is the phalit of pursuing yoga, and what is the phalit, what is the outcome. It is at that time, means once the yoga chitta vrittis are controlled or niruddha with the help of yoga, at that time seer rest remaining in his own nature. Tada drashtum swarupe vasthanam. At that time the seer, the one who is really performing yoga, get established in his own nature. What happens when my self is not established in its true real nature? It wanders around. So, at other time when not in the state of yoga, it identifies itself, the seer, which is actually the witness, identified with the various modifications. So, actually most of us are more familiar with the modifications, not the real nature of self, which is equanimous, which is quiet, which is perfectly calm. So, most of us are not actually aware of it, and most of us are most of the time are not in that state. So, we need to understand what are these modifications. In order to understand the modifications, we need to understand the different states of mind, and state of mind is used not in the technically perfect way according to the yogic tradition, because the real self is eternal, it is non-fluctuating, which is actually Purusha, but here we are trying to understand ways of attaining well-being. So, we are using more contemporary language, more which is actually more imperfect, but that is used most of the time, and that is useful for us to understand the matter. So, what it says that different states of awareness, different states of consciousness, and these state of consciousness is taken from the Mandukya Upanishad. These states are mentioned at so many places in Vedantic tradition and yogic literature. So, but Mandukya Upanishad very beautifully captures this and in a very focused way explains these states of consciousness, and in the Upanishad it says that Atma, the Brahman, has 4 states, and the 4th state is the real states, and that is the ground on which all other states are reflected. But we can look at this whole aspect of functioning of mind through this perspective, and hopefully as we all practice we can experience what is being stated in the Vedanta. So, in a normal language we can say that human consciousness happens to be at different states, and as it is understood in the modern psychology, it is at 3 states. However, in the Vedic tradition as well as in the yogic tradition, we also understand, in the Vedantic tradition and yogic tradition, we also talk about 4th state. So, what are the first 3 states which modern psychology agrees as well as the Vedantic tradition also mentions? First state is a state of wakefulness. We all are awake, we are delivering lecture or listening to this lecture, this is a wakefulness state. In the Mandukya Upanishad, it is termed as Vaishwanar. That is the state where most of the physical transactions take place between body and the world. Deeper to that awakening state is the, or subtler than the wakefulness state, is a state of sleep when dreams are on. The dreaming phase, which is not the deep sleep state, is considered to be the second stage or second state of the consciousness. Subtler than dream state is the deep sleep. This deep sleep is where we do not have self awareness, we are not able to reflect when we are in the deep state, when we are in the deep sleep, and this is also a state where Bahya Indriyas as well as Antarik Indriyas, external senses are anyway closed when we are in the dream state, but in the dream state internal senses, Antah Indriya, those are also active. That is why in the dream state we listen, we see objects or people, lot of experiences take place in the dream state. So, it is considered that corresponding to the extrinsic indriyas, external senses, sense of vision or auditory sense or touch, all those have their corresponding intrinsic senses as well, and those are active in the dream state. In the deep sleep, intrinsic senses also do not function, are not active. So, these are the three states which modern consciousness studies or modern psychology predominantly also consider, but Vedantic tradition talks about fourth state, and that fourth state is even beyond the deep sleep. In that state there is a deep relaxation, as relaxed at deep sleep, but also there is an alertness. That is the foundation, that is the underneath consciousness, that is a constant integrated equanimous consciousness, which is the playground. In that playground all other vrittis, all other mental fluctuations take place. That state is called Turiya. Turiya state is the fourth state. In the modern literature, we look at the construct like self transcendence and flow. These two constructs, in my understanding, are able to indicate, they may not be able to completely capture the essence of Turiya, but they can indicate what Turiya may feel like on a constant, integrated, continuous way. So, Turiya is the ultimate objective of yogic practices. Even it is experienced for few moments, our perception about life, our approach of dealing with things, dealing with senses, dealing with world get transformed. There are many experiential accounts of some of the very well known people who once have experienced the Turiya state. After even coming out of the Turiya state, they do not remain same person. And similar research findings we can see in the self transcendence literature. In a study conducted by our team, we have found that even people have slight glimpse of self transcendence states through yogic practices, their helpfulness increases, their level of moral reasoning increases, their ability to pursue things with more resilience, that also increases, their happiness, well-being and flourishing increases. So, Turiya is not totally unattainable by the people, the normal people like all of us. Only thing is, we can with the practice can have some glimpse of it, and even that glimpse, even that experience for few moments can have major positive impact on our overall well-being and overall happiness levels. There are at least 3 very popular meditation techniques which can help people to experience and to get glimpse of this Turiya state. Transcendental meditation taught by Maharshi Mahesh Yogi and his organization, that is probably very widely researched techniques of the amongst the yoga practices, and the description about that technique seems to be indicating that people are able to experience something which is deeper and more relaxing than the deep sleep. So, I infer that that is the implication, that is the glimpse of Turiya state. Art of Living Foundation teaches Sahaj Samadhi Yoga, that also seems to be of the similar approach. Isha Yoga Foundation teaches Shunya meditation, that also has similar experience as reported by people who are practicing TM, means transcendental meditation, and that seems to me the indication or the glimpse of the Turiya state. Let us look at the previous 3 states and actually what happens, which eventually obstruct our experience of oneness, our experience of being established in the true self. So, this is also explained in the Yoga Sutra. It talks about pancha vratyas, vratyayah panchatayah klishta aklishta. There are vrittis, means tendencies, modifications of mind stuff. Vrittis are also coming from the word vrat, which is means circular. So, vrittis, these are the modifications, but if you look at these modifications are recurring in nature, and you might have seen and noticed in your life and the people around, people tend to get into a similar kind of situation again and again. People tend to get into the similar emotional state again and again. That can be a positive state as well as negative state. So, it is safe to say that most of us either are in the vicious cycle or virtuous cycle, but most of us live our experience as cycle, as a recurring phenomena. So, vrittis are the recurring phenomena, these are the mind modifications, and these modifications can be of two types, klishta and aklishta. Klishta, which is painful, and klisht also means distorted, klisht also means difficult. Aklisht is not painful, not distorted. What are those 5 states? What are those vrittis? These vrittis are praman, viparya, vikalp, nidra, smritayah. Praman means right knowledge, knowing something in a justified manner, in a rational manner. Praman can be of experience, direct experience. Praman is also like anuman, when you infer something. Praman can also come from the reference, from the apta vachan, the statement of the knowledgeable, enlightened people. Second vritti is viparya. Viparya is indiscrimination. Viparya means looking at the things which viparya as a modification, meaning that which is unreal. Vikalp is verbal misconceptions, multiple ways of experience. Nidra is sleep and smriti is memory. So, praman, viparya, vikalp, nidra and smriti, these can be unhindered, which are not causing suffering. These can also be klisht or hindered, and they can cause suffering. So, praman, that is right knowledge, in the aklisht form becomes the basis of the evidence based thinking, but in the klisht form also praman can happen. This klisht praman is reflected when a person is only focusing on one direction of the phenomena. So, in the organization behavior literature or in the social science literature, we talk about critical theory, we talk about postmodernist theory, positivist theories and interpretive theories. All theories are based on different epistemological tools. That means, all of these theories, or basically the approaches, say that a phenomena, the same phenomena can be understood, can be studied in the different way. So, a positivist way means looking at the objective parameter, objective measurement of any phenomena. Critical theory looks at the possibility of looking the power difference in any situation. Critical theorists are interested to look at the power difference amongst the actors in that social situation. Interpretivists are mostly concerned about understanding the worldview of the people because of which they are behaving or not behaving in certain way. All four, or there can be multiple approaches, all are important, all are useful. But in order to understand life, in order to understand, say, issue about policy implementation, just an example, we need to take help of all four approaches or multiple approaches, so that we can understand thing in a holistic way. and we can take care of the multiple partners, and we can connect with the multiple partners in the process who are involved in that social situation. But if critical theorists only become so adamant that they will only look at the power distance or power difference, a positivist only look at the measurement and objective manifestations, an objective assessment of a situation. Interpretivist, if they become so adamant, they only concerned about the world view and do not take care of the power difference or do not take care of the objective measurements, we cannot solve the problem of life. So, when Praman becomes clished, it becomes clished when it is used in a very unidirectional way. Why clished pravrittis occur? The pravrittis can become clished because of vyadhi, sanshay, pramad, alasya. Vyadhi means disease. Disease can be bodily disease, somatic disease or psychological situation. Sanshay, doubt. When we are too much doubtful about others, about self, about everything, then our vrittis get clished. Pramad means when we are too much into the indulgence, when we indulge more than what is right in the sensuous pleasure or in our ego trips, that is called pramad. And alasya. Alasya means laziness. Laziness is not only of body, laziness also happens to be of our mind. Inactivity at the level of body is alasya, but inactivity means non-willingness, not investing enough effort to examine things and applying our mental strength, that also is alasya. So, because of the vyadhi, sanshay, pramad and alasya, vrittis become clished, vrittis become hindered and eventually they cause suffering. Viparya is the another form of modification. Viparya means when we are not able to distinguish real and unreal. That real and unreal, or when we consider unreal as real, that is modification, and that is not always clished. That can be clished as well, that can be actually non-suffering if when employed consciously. So, what happens when we go and watch movie? What happens when we play video game? We get entertained in the virtual reality. We do not ask the question that how in the film of Avatar creatures can come up like this. We get absorbed into it, we allow ourselves to get absorbed into it, and we start enjoying the creativity which is reflected through those viparya, through those non-real things. So, that causes entertainment, that gives joy. But when this goes far beyond and become dysfunctional, it becomes clished vritti. And when it becomes clished, and why it becomes clished? Because of 5 reasons. First one is avidya. Avidya is misidentification of self. Asmita, too much identified with one aspect of identity, one aspect of life. Rag, attachment. Dvesh, aversion. Abhinivesh, too much attachment to our name and identity in the society. So, we are going to discuss these viparyas in the next slide, but so this is one example of klishta and aklisht vritti. Third modification is imagination. Vikalp. Vikalp means what else is possible, what else. So, for any situation we can ask a question, what else, how else it can be. So, you can see that that is the source of creativity. It is the creativity of human mind which has resulted into so many instruments, so many means of conveniences, so many different types of engagements, that is all result of creativity. Because some people said that how else we can travel other than horse caravan, and that is why that is how the motor cars were invented. It is someone's imagined that why we can't talk to people as if we are sitting close by. Why can't we talk to people who are several miles away from us? That is also a vikalp. At one point of time this must be a vikalp, but it resulted into the invention of telephone. Then somebody would have had another vikalp asking or saying that why we need to have a static telephone, why can't we roam around having telephone in our pocket, and that is how the mobile telephony must have originated. So, these were all imagination at one point of time, but those are useful imagination. Some people imagine that can't we fly, and then the aeroplane were invented. So, a positive form or aclished form of vikalp is reflected in creativity and innovation. Every organization is supposed to have a vision, every technology leadership has to have a vision about what all is possible. So, these are very important vrittis, but when our vikalpa, our imagination go undisciplined, we touch the boundaries of insanity. Lot of mental illnesses are actually result of unhindered imagination, unrestricted imagination. People imagine themselves altogether different person, totally different from what they actually are in the real life, and that is the situation of psychopathy. That is the result of undisciplined imagination, meaning vikalpa as a modification or vritti is not controlled when it becomes klishta. Nidra is another mind modification. In the positive form or in the unhindered form or in the aklisht form, aklisht is the most appropriate word, because positive negative has lot of subjectivity. Something can become positive in one situation, but can be negative in some other situation. We discussed about the dichotomy of the positive emotions in the previous session. So, klisht and aklisht seems to me more appropriate interpretation, more appropriate words. So, in the aklisht form, nidra is important because it gives rest. Without proper sleep, without nidra, our body will not recover, our body will not regenerate cells which eventually replace the dead cells, and that is a constant cycle. But when nidra becomes too much, when it becomes klisht, it takes the form of procrastination, it takes form of alasya, laziness. And why it happens? It can happen because of the 4 reasons as mentioned in the third column at the top: vyadhi, sanshaya, pramad, alasya. Smritya, memory. Memory is a powerful tool. Memory and speed, these are the only 2 things a computer has. Memory is very important human capability. It is because of memory we retain our language, it is because of our memory we follow the solution which of the problem to which we handled earlier. It is because of the memory we maintain our relationships. So, memory is important. So, appropriate retrieval of information is important. It is the result of memory. Appropriate retrieval of the experience, right understanding, right analysis of the information, these are all important. These are aklisht vrittis. But the same memory can start becoming klishta and become cause of suffering when it get attached, it is hooked to some negative or some positive aspect of our life. You must have you might notice that many a time we get cling to one negative memory. Some insult, some hurt, some loss, some failure happened at some point in our life, and that memory gets so stuck in our mind, it keeps propping up, it keeps coming up in our interactions. Whenever we get into similar situation, that negative memory comes up and we become less functional. Sometimes we become agitated as well. Sometimes we start feeling low unnecessarily because some memory is being provoked in some situation, and that keep getting provoked again and again. So, that is the klishta form of memory. So, this is the way smriti can be klisht as well as aklisht, and because of these vrittis, because of these mind fluctuations, quality of mind is decided. That is called chitta bhumi. Vedavyas in his interpretation of Patanjali Yoga Sutra talks about 4 type of chitta bhumi. What is that? Kshipta, vikshipta, ekagra and niruddha. Kshipta is a turbulent mind, lot of fluctuation, indiscriminate fluctuations. Mind is hopping from one point to other and just not get stable. That is kshipta. Second, less turbulent state but still fluctuating state is vikshipta. When we do not have the control, we use in English this term, person is not in control of situation. That is the state of vikshipta. Vikshipta is less turbulent than kshipta, but it is also a state where mind is not focused on one thing, mind is not able to remain focused on one thing. Next stage is ekagra. Ekagra means mind is directed where it is supposed to get directed. So, you please recall our analogy of the chariot. In the analogy of the chariot, analogy for the self with the chariot, in the Kathopanishad, we discussed that self is the Atman which is observing, which is the owner, the driver of the chariot is the buddhi, and reen is the man. So, when buddhi is not able to move where self is directing it, that is the vikshipta state. In the ekagra, self directs the Atman, because of its sanskars, directs the buddhi, and buddhi is able to move in that direction, that is ekagra. And niruddha is complete mastery over mind. So, because of these modifications, our mind tend to be vikshipta and kshipta. Yogic practices help us to move us towards ekagra and niruddha mind. Ekagra mind and niruddha mind is the source of well-being. Ekagra mind and niruddha mind is also source of all knowledge, all accomplishments. For sports, for business, for music, for anything in life, we need to remain focused. We need to have ekagrata, single pointedness. I am not saying that we should not attempt or indulge into different tasks or different objectives, but at a moment we need to remain focused on one task. Modern psychology very clearly demonstrates that multitasking does not make people efficient or effective. Instead of multitasking, instead of doing 2 or 3 or more things at the same time, we need to inculcate the habit of completing one thing and then move to the next thing and then move to the next thing. So, multitasking is found to be associated with the lack of effectiveness, not more effectiveness in any role. That is ekagrata. it is pointing out the importance of ekagrata. Yoga help us to remain ekagra. In our research, we have found that even the 6 weeks practice of yoga 4 times a week make people to get into less of multitasking. That makes them more stress free and that makes them more alert, it makes them less tired and it makes them more effective. Journal of Management has published this study, Doing with More, that is the title, and Ravi Kudeshia and Christopher are the 2 co-authors with me in this work. So, ekagra is important quality of a mind which is capable of doing something or achieving something. Niruddha is the ultimate state, means that is the superordinate goal, the ultimate objective of yoga practice. Let us look at obstacles in little more detail. These obstacles, as mentioned in the previous slide, are avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhiniveshah, kleshah. So, kleshas are the cause of suffering. They drive the mind towards outward and they block the discriminative knowledge. Kleshas can be dormant, can be feeble, can be intermittent and can also be active. So, kleshas can be in the different state of their manifestation. This picture reflects the nature of kleshas. Why so? Because in the sutra itself Patanjali say that avidya is the ground, is the kshetram. Avidya kshetram uttaresham prasupt tanu vichhin udaranam. Avidya or ignorance is the kshetra, it is a field, it is a source, and from there emerge other aspects like asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh, etc. So, in this picture the main stem is avidya and from that main stem other kleshas originate. Avidya is about misunderstanding of the nature of things that can be stretched from profane to profound. Avidya is not able to understand things as they are. You might recall our conversation about Tattva Bodha. Tattva Bodha or Tattva Bodh, or it is also called Tattvavadhan, is identified by Charak as well in his classic work of Charak Samhita as one of the causes of happiness. Prasannata, the source of prasannata or happiness is identified as Tattvavadhan, Tattva Bodh, and lack of Tattva Bodh is avidya. It can be about physical things, it can be about psychological things, it can be about spiritual things. So, what is the sign of avidya? Sign of avidya is seeing of the permanent in impermanent. Our sense pleasure is impermanent, but we start living for that, it is avidya. The joy we get out of possessing some gadget is impermanent, but we start considering that as the ultimate thing, the permanent thing in life. These are some of the examples. So, this is how avidya operates. So, in any situation we need to look at, in any situation, what is permanent in this and what is impermanent in this. We need to attach ourselves, we need to take care of what is permanent in certain situation. For example, we want to indulge in food or cold drink. We need to look at what is impermanent, what is fleeting, what is more fleeting, the taste we get or health we lose. In comparison to the sense of taste, health is more permanent. So, we need to choose health over taste. Similarly, in the relationships, you get into some fight, some altercation or some disagreement with the family member or with your friend. Now, that disagreement in comparison to the relationship you have is impermanent. So, whenever I get into that fight, I need to remind what is permanent and what is impermanent. My relationship is permanent, relatively more long lasting. In the Adhyatmic sense, relationship is also not permanent, but in comparison to my identity with an idea because of which I am fighting, that is more impermanent than my relationship with that person. So, then we need to balance the permanence, then we need to deal with the impermanent thing without compromising what is permanent. If we are not doing that, if we end up taking up more fights for what is impermanent or more temporary at the cost of which is more stable, that is avidya. Similar thing can be looked at in the professional situation. In the professional recognition, we all know that we develop reputation in the profession over the years, and that emerges with our behavior, with our regular or with our general responses to things. So, in the professional situations also, many times we can see that we get allured by certain things. In those moments, we need to realize what is permanent and what is more stable. Taking small benefit, even a significant benefit, in comparison to our professional reputation, and we need to compare the benefit and the long term reputation. And if we, so avidya is compromising on the long term reputation with the immediate gratification. Similar thing, so it can be understood at even higher level. What is permanent? This country, this culture is permanent, or benefit of my community is permanent. More stable is the country, this culture. If we keep fighting for the benefit of my community and start compromising on the benefit and well-being of the whole nation or country, then that will be avidya. So, vidya and avidya is about our ability to discriminate permanent and stable. And if we come to the more mundane level, if we come to the more materialistic level, even if we do not, in the spiritual sense everything is impermanent, but if we look at things in more vyavharik level, more practical level, in the vyavharik world also we need to discriminate what is permanent and what is stable. My inability to distinguish permanent and stable is avidya, and because of that we choose two paths. One is called Shreyas and another is called Preyas. Shreyas path, the path of Preyas is that which looks very joyful in the beginning, but in the long run it becomes painful, it causes suffering. We all can relate to the situations with the Preyas. We can also relate to the things which are Shreyas. The Shreyas path is doing something which might be painful in the beginning, but the long term achievement through that pain is positive, that is called Shreyas. So, our ability to distinguish Shreyas and Preyas is the reflection of Vidya and Avidya. Second obstacle in attaining well-being is Asmita, misidentification of mind as self. That means mind creates some idea, I have to be into IIT, I must become general manager, I must become banker, I must have that big house, I must possess that car. There is nothing wrong in having the objective of getting degree from the best institution, getting the best job, owning the best car, nothing wrong with that. But too much identification of those objects, that is Asmita. Asmita meaning one aspect of our identity becomes so strong that we overlook all other aspect of life and personality. Getting that job or owning a flat, owning an apartment in a particular location or driving a particular car, when I start identifying with these things too strongly, and if I start saying that if I do not get this, then there is no meaning in my life, nothing else is there in my life. If that apartment I am not able to own, that there is nothing I have done in my life. If these kind of things are attached with some possessions and some social identities, that is called Asmita. So, when I get attached to something, some title, some achievement, some possession or even some relationship or some incidents in life, that actually overshadows all our vrittis and that causes major klishta vritti, and that klishtata, that negative modification causes suffering. So, that is the description of Asmita in the Vyavharik terms. Then comes Rag and Dvesh, attachment and aversion. These are in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra also, these are used as twin words. So, these are the two principal movements of identity. Rag or attachment arises from the experience of pleasure. When I enjoy something, I develop attachment with that. That is Rag. Enjoyment is not Rag, but that attachment, I want to enjoy that again and again, even when it is not according to Niti and Dharma right, Niti Sangat and Dharma Sangat pleasure, according to the policy and according to the Dharma. We have explained the Dharma many times in this course. So, something which is not according to policy or norm and according to Dharma, and if we want to experience that pleasure again and again, that is Rag. Obviously, that arises from the positive experience, and Dvesh is opposite to that. Dvesh arising from the experience of misery. We develop Rag for certain things, we develop Dvesh for certain things, that is actually clinging. Many times Dvesh is developed because of our inability to achieve something. I was not able to do something, and those who are able to do those things, I start developing an animosity, and that animosity result in the form of Irsha, jealousy. Jealousy is a form of Dvesh. I want to do something, I also wish to possess what someone else is possessing, but if I am not able to possess that, I start developing an aversion for those who are possessing that. That is Irsha, that is jealousy. So, Irsha is the form of Dvesh. Rag is inability to disentangle from own emotional experience. If I get too attached to one kind of emotional experience, even if that is not Niti Sangat and Dharma Sangat, I wish to experience again and again, that becomes Rag. Abhinivesh is clinging to life. Some people have this problem of imprinting, ensuring their name is uh, uh, there whatever they do, or even the name should be there even on those things which are not done by them. So, we have this sometime tendency to see our name and see our identity being recognized, being popularized. That is Abhinivesh. Patanjali say that Abhinivesh is the deepest problem. Even people who are strong practitioner of yoga, it is difficult for them to get rid of Abhinivesh. So, this is a time for reflection. We described about avidya, we described about the obstacles, we described about the tendencies of mind, modifications of mind, and how they get the form of, they attain the form of klishta or aklishta vritti. We have looked at all these things. We need to reflect on these questions. What is the state of my mind? Is most of the time it is fluctuating? Is most of the time it is turbulent? Or am I able to direct it at my will most of the time? Am I having a mind which is ekagra or niruddha, or I am possessing a mind which is chipta or vikshipta? We need to reflect on this. Do I remain in the klishta vritti or aklishta vritti most of the time? What is my constant background recording? Am I suffering most of the time? Am I feeling anger, jealousy, discomfort? Am I complaining most of the time, or I am joyful and creative most of the time? Am I scolding someone in my mind most of the time? Am I complaining about something most of the time? Am I feeling sulking most of the time? Am I feeling critical about people, situations around me most of the time? Am I feeling angry about people and things around me most of the time? Or I am feeling a sense of nurturing for others most of the time? Or I am experiencing creativity, experiencing joy, experiencing and looking at the possibilities of life in myself and others most of the time? We need to take record of these things. What is my constant background recording? Am I into the victim game or prosecutor game? If you want to know more about it, you can look at the transaction analysis. In the transaction analysis, there is a thing called games. These are psychological games. There are prosecutor games, victim games. That my recording is like a victim, and my mind recording, the background recording can be of a prosecutor who is criticizing everybody, finding faults in the people and things all around most of the time. These are the games which have negative payoff. Generally 2 people, 3 people, multiple people are involved in the games, and all of them have this negative payoff. We need to reflect on these things. Patanjali say that the vrittis of mind can be turned klishta or aklishta. We need to do the audit whether most of my vrittis are klishta or aklishta. When we become more aware, we naturally start working towards solution of these things. We naturally start making our vrittis more aklishta than klishta. Think about the situations when pramanas get dispelled my kleshas. Think about a situation where I didn't know about a person, that resulted in anger or that resulted in upset, but after knowing the person's worldview or situation, my kleshas, my anger, my klisht vritti, because of which I was suffering, that got dispelled. Write down those insights. When by knowing a situation, knowing about the situation, knowing about the person, knowing about myself, I became clearer. My suffering went away, and that is the sign of Vidya. We need to practice that Vidya more often. Am I consciously using the pratyaksha, the perception, anuman, the inference, shabd, words or testimony consciously to make my life more joyful or make my life and life around me more painful? That is the test whether I am using the pramana vritti in a aklisht way or klisht way. If possible, have frank conversation with your sibling, with your friend. Explain these concepts to him or her as well and reflect together. In the corporates, we all the time use 360-degree appraisal. Same thing can be done in the personal life as well. Reflection is a great human power, the great power of the human mind. That only can make our life full of well-being. That is the essence of managing self. Think about which viparya, if handled better, can make me more effective in my personal and professional life. Avidya, abhinivesh, rag, dvesh, asmita. We need to take record of this. We need to audit which viparya, if I reduce, I will be more functional. I will be more available to myself and to the world. My well-being is deeply connected with the well-being of people around me. My wellness is connected to the wellness of my surrounding, my social and natural surrounding. So look at the viparyas and think about what, if reduced, will enhance the wellness of me and my surrounding. Am I judiciously using vikalpa, nidra and smriti? Vikalpa is imagination. Is my imagination disciplined or indisciplined? Am I able to use imagination and creativity for enhancing wellness of me and people around me, or it is diminishing well-being? Nidra and smriti are the great vrittis. Without smriti, without memory, we can't function. But am I imprisoned of this smriti, or I am actually owner of the smriti, I am the user of the smriti? I am using nidra to give rest to my mind and body, or I am actually in control of the tendency of nidra? Why sometimes I know what is right and I am not able to pursue that path? That is called Duryodhan syndrome. So Duryodhan at some point of time in the Mahabharata says that janamya dharmam nachame pravritti, janamya dharmam nachame nivritti. I know what is dharma, but that is not my pravritti, that is not my tendency. Janamya dharmam, I also know adharma, but that is not my nivritti, I can't get rid of that. And dvesh was the most prominent viparya in the Duryodhan's life. Dvesh from Pandavas. At several occasions, even Shakuni, the mama of Duryodhan, asked to be generous, just gave away 5 villages and lived peacefully. Duryodhan said that I can't stand them, I can't even see them living on the earth. What to talk of giving them some villages to stay close by? So, Dvesh was the most important viparya Duryodhan faced. We all might be facing some or other viparya. What is my Duryodhan syndrome? Which rag, which dvesh, which asmita may be causing suffering in me? I need to identify that. Then I need to deal with the vyadhi, sanshay, pramad, alas, because of what reason that viparya is there. We will talk about these things, and we will also look at what are the ways of surpassing those. But the first point of surpassing those is recognizing these obstacles. In our team, we are working on the concept of organization healing, and Mr. Aditya Agrawal is pursuing PhD in this. He has come up with the thought that the most important thing in organization healing is recognizing that there is a crisis, imminent crisis or evident crisis. That is the prerequisite for the organization healing, and that is not indifferent, that is not different from the personal healing. We also need to know, we need to be aware what is the crisis, and most of the crises about the well-being are self-created crises. Those are the klisht vrittis, those are the crises. The viparyas are the crisis. The first step is reflection, recognizing what is that crisis or what is the imminent crisis, what is that viparya which is obstructing me. The first step is self-reflection.